The Lagos evening was alive with its usual vibrance, cars honking in chaotic symphony, street vendors calling out their last sales of the day, and the golden hues of the sunset casting a warm glow over the city. In the midst of it all, Zara Okachukwu hurried down the pavement, clutching her bag as she checked the time on her phone. She was late for a book launch, one she had been anticipating for months. Zara was a writer at heart, though she worked in corporate finance. Books were her escape, her sanctuary from the never-ending chase of success and societal expectations. Just as she turned a corner, she collided into someone hard. "Oh," she gasped, stumbling back. The man she had crashed into steadied her by the arm. "Are you okay?" His voice was rich, deep, and laced with an unfamiliar accent. Zara looked up and met piercing hazel eyes. He was clearly not Nigerian, his fair skin and sharp features set him apart. He was dressed in a crisp navy blue suit, the kind worn by businessmen with tight schedules and important meetings. "I'm so sorry," Zara mumbled, embarrassed. He chuckled. "No harm done. but I think you dropped this. He held up her book, an advance copy of Love in Every Word, the very novel she was attending the launch for. You know this book? She asked, surprised. Of course. I wrote it. Zora's eyes widened in shock. She had just crashed into Theo Carter, the best-selling British-Nigerian author whose words had touched millions. Zora stared, momentarily lost for words. Theo Carter. His name alone carried weight in the literary world. He was known for his emotionally gripping novels, ones that felt deeply personal despite their universal appeal. You're Theo Carter, she repeated, blinking as if to confirm she wasn't imagining things. He smiled, a dimple appearing in his left cheek. Last time I checked. He extended the book towards her. You like my work? Zora cleared her throat, willing herself to regain composure. Like it? I love it. Your words, they have a way of reaching into the soul. His smile deepened, and for a fleeting second, Zora wondered if she had said too much. That means a lot, Theo said. Are you heading to the launch? She nodded. Yes, but I'm running late. Then let me make it up to you for bumping into you. Come, let's go together. Zora hesitated. Was this really happening? Walking into a book launch with the author himself? But something about Theo's easy demeanor reassured her. As they walked, Theo asked, So, what do you do when you're not reading my books? Corporate finance, Zora said with a sigh. Numbers by day, words by night. He chuckled. A double life. I like that. As they entered the venue, Zora couldn't shake the feeling that this chance meeting was about to change everything. The book launch was held in an elegant event hall, the kind where literature lovers and socialites mingled under the glow of chandeliers. As Theo and Zora stepped inside, whispers followed them. Some recognized him instantly, their eyes widening in admiration. Others cast curious glances at Zora, wondering who she was. You're quite popular, Zora murmured as they walked further in. Theo smirked. Occupational hazard. A well-dressed woman approached, beaming. Mr. Carter. We are so honored to have you here. We didn't expect you to arrive with a guest. Zora felt the attention shift to her, and for a brief moment, she felt out of place. But Theo's calm demeanor kept her grounded. Zora is a fellow book lover, Theo said smoothly. We met in the most literary way possible, by bumping into each other. The woman laughed and ushered them towards the main area where the event was in full swing. As Theo was pulled into conversations with publishers and admirers, Zora found herself observing him from a distance. He was effortlessly charming, yet there was something about him that seemed guarded. Like he was always holding something back. Enjoying the view? Theo's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. She flushed. Just taking it all in. He handed her a glass of wine. Then let me make it even more memorable. After this, let's take a walk. Just us. Zora hesitated, but the intrigue in his gaze was irresistible. All right, she said, realizing that this night was turning into something far more significant than she had expected. The Lagos night was alive with energy as Zora and Theo stepped out of the event hall. The city buzzed around them, neon lights flickering, voices blending into an urban melody, the distant scent of street food lingering in the air. Do you sweep stranger away for a late-night walk? Zora teased him. Theo chuckled. Only when fate practically throws them into my arms. She rolled her eyes playfully, but there was a warmth. The next morning, Zora woke up with the lingering echoes of last night's conversation. She found herself replaying Theo's words, the depth in his gaze, and the way the city lights had framed his face. Something about him intrigued her beyond his fame. Zora hesitated for a moment before typing back a simple reply. Sure. Where? Within seconds, Theo responded. There's a great cafe by the waterfront. Meet me there in an hour. Excitement bubbled in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. It was just breakfast, nothing more. Yet as she dressed, she found herself putting in extra effort, choosing a soft blue dress that flattered her figure, applying a light touch of makeup. Why did it feel like more than just breakfast? When she arrived at the cafe, Theo was already there, sipping a cup of coffee as he stared out at the water. He looked up as she approached, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Good morning," he greeted. Zara chuckled as she took a seat. "More like overanalyzing every word we said last night." Theo laughed. "So, I wasn't the only one." They ordered breakfast, the conversation flowing effortlessly. They talked about their favorite books, childhood memories, and even the small joys of life. There was something refreshingly easy about being around him. As they finished their meal, Theo leaned back. "I meant what I said last night, you know. About finding inspiration in the unexpected." Zara tilted her head. "And?" He smiled. "I think you might just be part of my next story." Her heart skipped a beat, and for the first time in a long time, she wondered if fate had brought them together for a reason. The next few days passed in a blur. Zara and Theo continued their conversations, texting back and forth about everything from literature to life ambitions. There was a natural ease between them, yet something lingered beneath the surface, an unspoken reality neither had addressed. Theo was a man of the world, traveling from city to city. Zara's life was rooted in Lagos, with responsibilities she couldn't simply abandon. As much as she enjoyed their growing connection, she couldn't ignore the inevitable question, where was this heading? One evening, as they sat on a quiet balcony overlooking the city, Zara finally voiced her thoughts. "Theo, what happens when you leave?" He sighed, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. "I don't have an answer for that yet." The night air was crisp as Theo and Zara strode along the quiet streets. The hum of the city had faded into a distant murmur, leaving only the sound of their footsteps and the occasional laughter from a nearby cafe. "So, tell me, Zara," Theo said, glancing at her. "If you could write your own story, what would it be about?" She chuckled. "That's a hard question. Maybe a story about love, not the grand, dramatic kind, but the small, everyday moments that make it real." Theo nodded. "I like that. Love in the little things." She turned to him. "And you? If you weren't a writer, what would you be?" He exhaled, a thoughtful look in his eyes. "I don't know. Writing saved me. It gave me a voice when I didn't have one." Zara studied him. "Saved you from what?" He hesitated, then offered a small smile. "Another story for another night." As they reached the end of the street, Theo stopped. Tonight was unexpected. In the best way. Zara felt warmth rise in her chest. "Yeah, it was." He stepped closer. "I meant what I said earlier, you inspire me." Her breath caught as their eyes met. And in that moment, standing under the dim glow of the streetlights, she realized that this was more than just a chance meeting. It was the beginning of something neither of them had planned for. The next morning, Zara found herself replaying every moment of the night before. The way Theo had looked at her under the streetlights, the way his words had lingered in her mind long after they had parted. It was unsettling, this feeling of anticipation, of something brewing just beneath the surface. She shook her head, trying to focus on the stack of reports in front of her. Work. That was what mattered. But as fate would have it, Theo had other plans. Her phone buzzed just as she was about to dive into the spreadsheets. She glanced at the screen, her heart stuttering for a beat. "Theo Carter, good morning, Zara. Hope your day is off to a great start." A smile tugged at her lips before she caught herself. What was she doing? This wasn't supposed to mean anything. He was just a writer she admired, a man she had coincidentally bumped into. But even as she told herself that, her fingers moved on their own accord. "Zara, morning, theology. It's been a busy one. Hope yours is going well too." His reply came almost instantly. "Theo, it would be better if I had some good coffee. Know any place that won't disappoint?" Zara hesitated. Was this an invitation? Her logical mind told her to brush it off, to politely decline and move on with her day. But her heart, the part that had been stirred by last night's unexpected connection, told her otherwise. "Zara, I might know a spot. But only if you promise not to critique their coffee like a food critic." Theo, no promises. Pick you up at noon. As she stared at his message, Zara realized something. No matter how much she tried to deny it, Theo Carter was slowly becoming more than just an encounter. He was slipping into her story, word by word, in ways she hadn't foreseen. Charming little spot tucked away from the city's usual bustle. It had the kind of warmth that made it feel like home, wooden shelves lined with books, the rich aroma of roasted beans filling the air, and soft jazz humming in the background. Zara had always loved coming here. It was her escape, her quiet corner of the world. As she stepped inside, Theo was already waiting at a corner table, dressed in a casual button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked up, and when he saw her, that signature dimpled smile appeared. "You weren't joking about this place," he said, standing as she approached. "I like it. Feels intentional." Zara chuckled. "That's a poetic way of saying nice cafe." "Well, what's my thing?" He gestured for her to sit. "What's good here?" "Everything," she said. "But if you critique their espresso too harshly, I might have to defend its honor." Theo smirked. Duly noted. As they sipped their drinks, their conversation flowed effortlessly. They talked about books, travel, the little quirks of Lagos that only told. Zara found herself laughing more than she had in weeks, completely at ease in his presence. "You know," Theo mused, stirring his coffee, "I wasn't planning on staying in Lagos this long. But something tells me I should." Zara met his gaze, her heart skipping a beat. "And why's that?" He leaned in slightly, his hazel eyes locking onto hers. "Because some stories are still being written. And I think this one is just getting started." Zara knew then that she was in trouble. Because despite every logical reason to keep her distance, she wanted to know how this story would unfold. The next few days, Zara found herself slipping into a rhythm with Theo, text messages exchanged in between meetings, late-night conversations about books and life, and moments where she caught herself smiling at her phone. It was easy. Too easy. And that was what scared her. One evening, as she sat on her balcony, watching the city lights twinkle against the dark sky, her phone buzzed again. "Theo, I have a theory." "Zara, oh. Do share." "Theo, the space between two people is either filled with words or silence. And sometimes, silence says more than words ever could." She hesitated before replying. "Zara, and what if words are safer?" "Theo, then maybe it's time to take a risk." His words sat heavily on her heart. She wasn't sure what entirely. But she knew this, something was shifting between them, something unspoken yet undeniable. And the more she tried to ignore it, the deeper she found herself sinking into his world. The next morning, as she stepped into her office, a small package sat on her desk. Frowning, she picked it up and unwrapped it. Inside was a book, one she had mentioned offhandedly during their cafe conversation. A note was tucked inside the cover. "For the woman who believes in love in the little things." "Theo." Zara swallowed hard. The space between them was no longer empty. It was filling, word by word, moment by moment. And she wasn't sure if she was ready for where it would lead. The book sat on her desk for the rest of the morning, untouched yet impossible to ignore. Every time her eyes drifted to it, her heart kicked up a little faster. Theo was deliberate with his words, and this was something carefully chosen. By lunchtime, curiosity won over. She picked up the book, running her fingers over the warm cover, and flipped it open. The first page had another note scribbled in Theo's neat handwriting. "Sometimes, the best stories are the ones we don't see coming." Zara exhaled slowly, closing the book just as a knock sounded on her office door. It was her colleague, Amoka, eyes flickering to the book before settling on Zora's face. "That from who I think it is?" Zara hesitated, then nodded. Amoka grinned knowingly. "He's got you thinking, hasn't he?" Zara sighed, rubbing her temples. "That's the problem, Amoka. Sis. I don't know if I'm ready for it." Amoka perched on the edge of the desk, crossing her arms. "You know, sometimes we overthink the things that are meant to just be felt." The words lingered in Zora's mind long after Amoka left. That evening, as she settled into her couch, she finally opened the book again, this time letting herself read without overanalyzing. And somewhere, between the lines of ink and paper, she wondered if Theo had already written himself into her story. The weekend arrived, bringing with it a rare, gentle rain that cast a dreamy haze over the city. Zora curled up by the window, the book Theo had given her resting on her lap. She traced the spine absent-mindedly, her thoughts drifting to him more often than she cared to admit. Her phone buzzed.
Try clicking on it
Theo,
again,
what's a
then
rainy good
send a
compliment
message
even better
to me
conversation?
like through
Zora
the
smiled,
design
shaking
and
her
be
head.
like, I should allow
Zora,
the
sounds like you have a plan.
request for
Theo, I do.
accessibility
Come
so that
take a
I'll
walk
be
with
able
me.
to do my
A
phone to
walk.
give you access to
In the
that
rain.
particular design.
Every rational part of her wanted to decline, to choose the comfort of her warm apartment over the uncertainty of Theo's presence. But then she thought of the book, his words always seemed to find a place inside her. Could second-guess herself, she grabbed her coat and Zara, where should I meet you? Zara met Theo at a quiet park just as the drizzle lightened, leaving behind a world glistening with raindrops. He stood waiting under an umbrella, lighting up as she approached. You actually came, he said, a hint of surprise in his voice. You sound like you expected me to say no. Theo, let's just be careful with your steps. They started walking, the scent of wet earth and blooming flowers filling the air. It was peaceful, the world around them hushed as if it was listening. Every so often, their hands brushed, and each time, Zora felt her pulse quicken. Thinking, Theo observed. She shot him a sideways glance. Is that a bad thing? Not at all, he said softly. I just wonder
I've
what
given
would
you
happen if you let
access.
yourself feel more than you think.
I've given you
Zora looked
access to
away,
try it
the
again
weight
if
of
you
his
can
words
edit
settling in
it.
her chest. She wasn't sure if she was ready to answer that question yet. By the time they reached a small cafe tucked between two old bookshops, the rain had stopped completely. They sat by the window, watching the passers-by, sipping hot chocolate in comfortable silence. Theo turned to her suddenly. Tell me something you've never told anyone. Zara hesitated, fingers tightening around her mug. That's a dangerous request. Only if you're afraid of being known. She let out a quiet laugh, but his gaze didn't waver. Taking a breath, she said, I write. Theo's brows lifted. Stories. Glass. I don't have an answer for that yet. The night air was crisp as Theo and Zora strode along the quiet streets. The hum of the city had faded into a distant murmur, leaving only the sound of their footsteps and the occasional laughter from a nearby cafe. "So, tell me, Zara," Theo said, glancing at her. "If you could write your own story, what would it be about?" She chuckled. "That's a hard question. Maybe a story about love, not the grand, dramatic kind, but the small, everyday moments that make it real." Theo nodded. "I like that. Love in the little things." She turned to him. "And you? If you